Welcome to Heart, where we break the silence, bridge the gaps, and bring real conversations about mental health to the forefront. I'm your host, Lee Yaffe, founder and director of The Long Short Road. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heart. I'm so grateful to be here with you. Let's start off our time together tonight by taking a few breaths. So if you are driving or otherwise occupied, keep going and just follow along to the prompts with your eyes open. If you're able to close your eyes and that feels comfortable for you, then by all means, please go ahead. We're just going to take 1 or 2 breaths here together to start us off. Really let it go. Let all the air out. So tonight I wanted to share with you all some insights and thoughts on the idea of emotional regulation. So I think that emotional regulation, like many aspects of mental health, is kind of like they've become almost buzzwords. Like everyone kind of knows what they mean or what they're supposed to mean, but do we really have a concrete understanding of what emotional regulation is and how we can use our inherent God-given tools to access well-being and wholeness? And I think the answer is yes, we all have those tools. No, not everyone knows that we have those tools, and not everyone knows how to tap into them. So that's what I want to spend some time sharing with you all tonight, and hopefully we can gain some better insight and awareness into how our bodies work and how our emotions work, and use that to strengthen ourselves. So the first thing I'll say is this. A lot of people think that being emotionally regulated means feeling calm all the time. So emotional regulation means that no matter what comes my way and no matter what challenges I face, I can remain cool as a cucumber and handle it all. And that's actually not true. And to take that a step further, I really genuinely believe that that mindset of I have to be calm and cool all the time actually serves to harm our ability to be regulated. If we think that being regulated means always being even keel, then when we're not, because we're human and we cannot be that way all the time, then we'll feel angry or judgmental or frustrated with ourselves for not being regulated. But the truth is that being regulated is really about learning how to be with all of our experiences. It's not about feeling good all the time and calm all the time. There's this famous quote that Jon Kabat-Zinn, I believe it was him who said this. It's been attributed to a few people, but I've heard it come from him. Jon Kabat-Zinn is the developer of a program called mindfulness-based stress reduction. And in that program, one of the things that he talks about is, you have to think about life like surfing, right? That's one way you can think about it, is that we can't stop the waves on the ocean, but we can learn how to surf. And that's what emotional regulation is to me. That's how I would define it, is learning how to surf and be with all of our experiences. So let's dial that back for a moment and break down a little bit the experience and the definition of emotion. Okay? All of us, every single one of us on the planet has a specific relationship to our emotions that has developed over time, right? A lot of people categorize emotions as either being good or bad. So happiness, joy, gratitude, good. Anger, sadness, anxiety, bad. And we have this very black and white differentiation between the two. So actually, all emotions are inherently neutral. I'm going to say that again because that might sound a little shocking to some of you. All emotions are neutral in origin. So happiness, anger, sadness, joy, disappointment, all of those things, all of those experiences that we all have are messengers from our body and from our mind. They happen in both, right? Because the body and the mind are connected to each other. They are not two separate entities that happen to exist in one physical space. The body and the mind are deeply, deeply connected to each other. And actually our brain, right? Our brain is embodied in our body. So our brain stems down through the vagal nerve and through the nervous system to every area of our body, right? So emotions originate as both part of the body and the mind, and all emotions are messengers that communicate our needs, all of them. So when you're feeling happy, that's communicating an experience. When you're feeling grateful, that's communicating an experience or a need. When you're feeling anger, lonely, sadness, disappointment, depression, anxiety, that's also a communication of need. So all emotions are inherently neutral. And when they rise in us and when we experience them in our bodies and in our brains and in our minds, they are serving to communicate to us. Okay? Now, emotion is different than behavior. Our emotions are neutral experiences, meaning they're coming to serve a purpose. It's what we do with our emotions that then becomes potentially hurtful to ourselves or others, right? So emotions are one thing, actions and behaviors are separate. And the way that you can another way that you can think of what an emotion is an emotion is an experience that is evoking motion in us. When we feel something, it's because it's a sensation that needs to rise and pass through us. It's energy that's moving through our bodies. Okay? So emotional regulation then, as I said previously, is not about I'm going to feel even keel all the time. I'm going to feel good all the time. I'm going to feel calm, even if there's a tiger in my face or my boss is, demanding something of me that feels belittling, or my child is losing their mind and having a temper tantrum, or I feel anxious about something that's coming up in my life right now. It's not about staying even keel and calm all the time, because that's not physically possible. And that's not how Hashem created us, right? Hashem created us to feel our feelings and move through them. So that is really what emotional regulation is. It's about being in tune with our emotions, our experiences, both positive and negative, and learning how to surf and ride those waves of our experiences. Now let's think about this for a second. I think I mentioned this a moment ago, that we all have relationship to our emotions and understanding of our emotions that really, for most of us, originated in childhood, right? The relationship that you have to your emotions now could be that you've done your work and you've learned to assess where your emotions are coming from and how they rise up, and maybe where you got the messaging that certain emotions are bad or good. Some of us have not done that. So let's assess that together. Okay. We learn about how to feel and how to treat our emotions from from ourselves, but really from the other people around us, from the people who are meant to educate us and teach us and discipline us, our parents and our educators, right? So from a young age, think about it. At 2 years old, if you dropped an ice cream cone on the floor and started hysterically crying, which is totally developmentally in line for what a 2-year-old is supposed to do, right? That's totally developmentally appropriate. And you have a parent or a caregiver telling you, why are you crying? Why are you such a baby? It's just an ice cream cone. I'll get you another one. You're fine. Here, we fixed it. What does that teach you about the emotion that you're experiencing? Well, one, it teaches you that sadness, anger, disappointment is bad, and that we need to quickly move past it so that we don't feel it. Right? The same thing with gratitude or happiness. I think definitely, like within the Jewish world, we have this tendency to focus, rightfully so, right? There is something to be said about there's a place for needing and wanting to tap into that higher part of ourselves that we can experience with happiness and joy, right? But the truth is that if we don't make space for everything that is happening to us and we shove it down or we say we're fine, eventually those emotions will manifest elsewhere, either in physical symptoms or in psychological symptoms. If we're not feeling our feelings, they're going to keep showing up until we feel them, right? And sometimes our feelings, say of anger or sadness or anxiety or loneliness, start out as like a little whisper, right? Now I'm whispering, I'm an emotion and I'm talking to you. And if we ignore that emotion, then it gets a little bit louder because it's seeking our attention. And if we're not going to pay attention, now it's going to get even louder and louder and louder until it's shouting at us, right? The thing that is really hard to parse apart for many people, myself included, right? Because I think if you've listened to the show before, I try to make it very clear that I'm as human can be, and I struggle with all of this stuff just like you guys. I'm not out here on this, hanging out on an ivory tower, having figured it out and telling you like, this is what you should do. And I have it figured out because I'm perfect. I really do not. And I'm far from perfect, right? When we are not able to tap into how we're feeling and learn to ride those waves, then our emotions take control of us and we feel out of our bodies, out of our minds, dysregulated, flipping out, right? Or disconnected and shut down. I really believe, and I've seen this in the research and I've seen this in lived experience, that our emotions are roadmaps that are meant to better help us understand how we feel and what we need, right? When you are feeling lonely, loneliness is a very painful, uncomfortable emotion. And I don't remember where it was that I read this study recently that chronic loneliness could be compared to the physical manifestation and the physical ramifications of chronic loneliness is comparable to smoking 17 cigarettes a day. So I'm not saying that when I'm not, I'm not meaning to say feel your feelings and ruminate and obsess and get stuck in the swamp of your feelings. That's not what I mean. But if you don't feel the loneliness and acknowledge, hey, this is how I'm feeling right now, it will it will take the driver's seat, right? Unless we are in the driver's seat, our emotions become the driver. And that is where we start to see behavior that is difficult, painful, and potentially even dangerous to ourselves or others. I want to reiterate again, and I'm reiterating this because I think that this could be a pretty hot take and a kind of a mic drop here, is that there's no such thing as a good or bad emotion. All emotions are neutral, okay? It's what our behaviors are that could be good or bad or destructive, right? So anger, stress, shame, anxiety, they're uncomfortable. They're definitely uncomfortable, right? And the behaviors that we associate with these emotions can often be negative, right? But the goal of these emotions is to send us a message of what we need. So let's take, for example, a feeling like anger, right? Usually, a lot of people say that anger is a secondary emotion, meaning anger is the surface of what we're feeling, and underneath there might be other things. So anger often arises when we feel that something is not going the way we want, when we're not being heard or understood, when we feel threatened or attacked, right? And, it's interesting, in the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe compares anger to idol worship. And stop and think about why that is for a moment, right? When we feel angry, we can become obsessed with the thing that we are angry about, right? That we have this right and justification to feel angry about this thing. And it becomes almost a sense of worship, that I'm holding this thing that I'm angry about on a pedestal, and it's controlling my life, and it's controlling the way that I'm running my day to day, right? If we could stop and say, I recognize that I feel angry, and not immediately jump to blame, shame, disconnect, coping with unhealthy things, and just be in the experience. And again, that doesn't mean ruminating in it. That doesn't mean obsessively being attached to your anger. It's learning to feel, right? Learning to feel. So how do we actually do that? Right? How do we actually learn to feel our emotions and learn to regulate and ride those waves? And by doing so, with time and practice, we can become more resilient in our experiences and how we show up. So the truth is this, I'm going to break it down for you all a little bit. And I just want to say, what I'm going to be sharing now is definitely simple in thought, right? Logically, this is common sense. These are not necessarily easy steps to take, because anyone who's ever felt any big emotion, which is every human being on the planet, knows how challenging it can be to stop and be in the moment, especially when those emotions are crazy uncomfortable and feel stressful and feel almost like a threat to our existence, right? If you think about it for a moment, right? Like our limbic system, the area of our brain that's responsible for fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, which is really the area of the brain that's keeping us safe from danger, will associate these challenging emotions, notice I didn't say negative, challenging emotions, as a threat to our well-being. And so learning how to live in wise relationship with these emotions is not about, again, feeling good all the time or never feeling anger or sadness or shame or loneliness ever again, because that's physically impossible, but learning how to live in wise relationship with our emotions so that they don't control us and lead us to react in ways that we will regret. So how do we break this down? Okay. The first thing I think that is the most important foundational skill for emotional regulation is having compassion for ourselves, having compassion for our inner world. And when an emotion does arise that feels negative, uncomfortable, weird, we don't like it, is to be compassionate to ourselves and love on ourselves the way we would on a child, right? If you have a hard time loving on yourself as an adult, think about what your inner child, like what your inner child would have needed. What kind of love, attention would you have needed as a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old when you were feeling big feelings? Okay. So self-compassion, inner compassion, and paying attention to what's your self-talk. You cannot hate yourself into healing. Learning how to regulate your emotions is honestly a lifelong journey. And if this is the first time that you've ever thought about or integrating a practice like this into your life, it can feel very daunting. And oftentimes our default is to go into a place of negative self-talk, right? To go into a place where our chatter is very negative about ourselves and about our experiences. So if you find yourself feeling angry or feeling shame, and then on top of those feelings, you're also being mean to yourself, then that makes the process of getting down into your body and feeling your feelings much, 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 much harder, basically impossible. Kindness and love towards yourself will take you much further than hatred towards yourself could ever go. Okay? So how do we do this? It starts by learning to label your feelings, learning to pay attention to what's arising in you and saying it out loud. I feel angry. I feel sad. I feel overwhelmed. And notice I'm using the word feel here. I'm not saying I am overwhelmed. I am angry, because you are not your feelings. You're not your feelings. The feeling is occurring in you, but it is not who you are. That's first and foremost, is learning how to just to notice and label. That awareness is key. And it might feel like, oh, that's such a small step. Yeah, you got to start somewhere, everyone. Like, I know that we have this idea that healing is supposed to be these massive steps that we take to, solve all the problems. It doesn't work like that. Let me tell you something, y'all. If I could have figured that out, how to solve these problems, I wouldn't have spent the last almost 10 years of my life dedicated to this work, right? This is hard. It's challenging work that requires us to be present so we can rewire our experiences. It's not easy, but it's doable. And if I could do it, anyone could do it. Like, really, I thought I was a lost cause for most of my life. So if it's possible for me, it's possible for everybody. Learning to be with our feelings means that we do not judge the experiences as they arise. We make space for what is, and we allow them to move through us, right? In different talk about trauma and trauma responses, I believe it was Peter Levine's book on trauma called Waking the Tiger, where he talks about how our nervous systems have to complete a full cycle in order to feel safe. So we feel the threat of whatever's arising. Our bodies help, our nervous system makes a choice: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And we have to go through and complete the entire cycle in order to return to our baseline homeostasis, right? Most of us, though, live in this state of freeze where it's like we feel an emotion that we don't like. So then we immediately try to either push it away or numb or distract or whatever. And then it just gets louder and louder and louder. And now we're just living in this state of like consistent dysregulation. So starting super, super, super small by when something arises, you notice, you say out loud, this is how I'm feeling. You breathe. And then you make a choice about what happens next. Often we are acting from a place of reactivity and not from a place of responsiveness, right? Not responding to what's happening to us, but reacting, maybe not even to the current emotion, but a past iteration of the emotion and how it made us feel 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? And the truth is that when we experience a stressful moment and we meet that moment with more stress or more anxiety or more hatred or judgment to ourselves, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it explodes. When we meet a stressful moment from a place of not even necessarily calm, but just meeting ourselves where we're at and honoring our experiences and moving through the emotion, then it can get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Now, the truth is, and I said this before, that our ability to regulate and to feel our feelings is as much a body experience as it is a brain experience. So we have to honor both, right? We can't just intellectualize. And let me tell you something, everyone. I've read every book. I tried to intellectualize my way out of trauma for years. That was what I did probably for the first, I don't know, 7 years of my trauma work, was trying to intellectualize my way out of it. I read every book. I did every workbook. I did every exercise known to man, but I wasn't necessarily doing the exercises. I was reading all the books and learning cool information, but then not doing anything with it. Our bodies and our brains and our minds, if we want them to change, if we want neuroplasticity to occur, then we have to change the pattern. And you cannot just change the pattern by reading an interesting, fascinating insight. So it's important that we take time, right, when we are regulated and calm to be in wise relationship with ourselves as much as it's important in times of distress, right? I've probably made this, I've probably shared this analogy on the show in the past, but I think it's worth repeating. You can think about emotional regulation like riding a bike, okay? When you get on a bike, hopefully you put on your helmet. And the helmet's not going to stop you from falling off the bike, but it's going to help keep you safe, right? If you fall off. So challenges in life, you can't stop ourselves from those challenges. You're going to fall off your bike sometimes. Hopefully you have your helmet on and that's going to protect you. So that's putting in the effort to practice these skills, not just in times of emergency, right? And the same way that if you're riding a bike, you don't wait until you're falling off the bike to be like, oops, where's my helmet? Let me strap it on. Practicing these regulation tools. So learning how to sense your emotions, taking a minute a day, 1 minute, 60 seconds to sit in total silence and honor your body. You call it meditation, call it mindfulness, call it whatever you want. Spending 60 seconds a day in your body and learning to pay attention to the signs that your body is sending you, right? How could you even know how to regulate an emotion or feel an emotion if you've never stopped to be quiet with your body before? So I know I said last week that I wasn't going to give any more homework on the show, but I'm giving you all more homework. Spend 60 seconds with yourself every day for the next week. Just set a timer on your phone and be in that quiet space with your body and learn to listen to what is your body saying to you. One other skill that I find to be very helpful when we're, if you're branching into this idea of emotional regulation, is to take time to make a list for yourself of the things that you can do to help yourself be in a state of find a state of regulation when you feel dysregulated. So for me, that might look like giving myself a hug or asking my husband or someone around me for a hug if there's someone around, right? And if it's an appropriate time. And I actually like to keep a physical list of things on my phone or on a piece of paper. What are the things that I can do to help me get to a place of groundedness on the regular when I'm not distressed, so that when I am distressed or overwhelmed or anxious, my body remembers and my mind remembers, my brain remembers that it is capable of doing things to help me find a sense of balance and ride those waves. Okay, so things like going for a walk regularly, eating and drinking regularly, right? Oftentimes there's physiological reasons why our emotions are so out of bounds, right? It might have nothing to do with maybe the anxiety is not only anxiety about work or about home life or about something you have going on, but maybe it's also connected to your physiological health. So sleeping, eating, getting enough exercise, drinking enough water, those are baseline things that we need. Again, our bodies and our minds work together and we have to be contributing to our physical well-being if we want to see the emotional benefits. One thing that I really love to do to regulate myself, and if you follow us on Instagram, then you have seen me do this before, is I will find a tree either in my backyard or in a park, and I will physically lay down on the trunk of the tree and learn how to feel my body as one with the earth and with nature. Nature is very regulating, so I highly, highly recommend that to all of you. There's so many skills and ways to learn how to engage with our emotions and to be in wise relationship with ourselves. And I know that I'm just scratching the surface. But I really want to encourage you all to just start with that basic awareness. How do I feel right now? What messages is my body sharing with me? If I feel angry, if I feel overwhelmed, what's going on underneath that emotion? What is that messenger trying to communicate to me? And so I actually want to end our time together today by sharing with you a poem by Rumi called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, Treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. When we can learn to look at our emotional experiences as messengers, as communicating needs, as inherently neutral and also built into our systems. If Hashem didn't want us to feel these emotions, he wouldn't have created them. So there's a reason why they're here and why they exist within each of us. And it's up to each of us individually to take that time to nurture, honor, and investigate what is going on within so that we can make positive changes. So one thing I want you to take away from today is be comfortable learning to be in your feelings. And that starts with 1 minute of awareness a day. So set a timer on your phone for 60 seconds and just take those 60 seconds to be present in your body. I would do it with you here all, but like I said last week, we do not need 60 seconds of dead air on the show. So I'm not gonna know if you do this. It's up to you. You can just listen to this and say, hey, that's a cute idea, and then move on with your life. If you really want to see positive changes in your relationship to your emotion, you have to start somewhere. So start small with 60 seconds and see how it goes. I honor and cherish each of you. Thank you for being here and for taking the time to learn new ways that you can honor your well-being and contribute to your well-being. And do not underestimate what those small steps could do and how they could lead to better health. Thank you, everyone, and see you next week. Thank you for tuning in to Heart to Heart. If you or someone you love is struggling, please know there is hope and help is within reach. Since 2019, the Long Short Road has been walking alongside at-risk individuals, offering trauma-informed programs, a non-emergency hotline, and a community that fosters healing. No one has to go through this alone, and we are here for you. Discover how the Long Short Road is changing lives. Visit www.thelongshortroad.com or email us at info@thelongshortroad.com to learn more. You can be part of this mission. Sponsorship opportunities for Heart to Heart are available. Honor a loved one, support your community, and help us make mental wellness resources accessible to those who need them most. Until next time, remember, love and connection are the greatest healers. This is Lee Yaffe reminding you, hope is here, healing is possible, and you are never alone. Together, we're walking this long, short road to a brighter future.